Wife of 5 years cheated and now I feel absolutely nothing for her. Nothing. And that scares me. Here are the main points. My wife, 34, and I 32. Wendy met via friends 7 years ago, dated for 2 years, and have been married for 5 years, just after I finished law school. For the first 2 years of our marriage, I worked as an associate at my firm, putting in 60 hours a week. That hard work has paid off, and I am doing well professionally. Wendy was a teacher at a private school before we married, but she resigned to pursue her master's degree in education and is now enrolled in an educational doctorate program while working part-time. This was a bit of a financial burden since I wanted to pay off my college debts as soon as possible, but we made it work. When we first began dating, my wife was using an ancient laptop. It was in a box in a closet, which I discovered. She said that it had crashed and would no longer function. I plugged it in and attempted to turn it on. Nothing. Wendy took photographs of everything when we first met, especially selfies of herself with others. I ripped out the hard drive and went through it, knowing she had some images of us from that period. It seemed to be okay. The issue has to be someplace else. I waited until she went to go see her sister before plugging it into a SATA cable connected to my PC, wanting to surprise her with images from when we first began dating. There were photographs there. There are several photographs. Some pictures were of us on dates, laughing and smiling. They brought back a lot of happy memories. However, there were additional photos of her with other individuals. I recall one individual in particular. Bob was his name, and Wendy had dated him before me. There were several photographs of her and Bob. I wanted to take just our photographs, so I figured the simplest approach would be to categorize them by date, assuming that the most recent images would be of just us. However, when I sorted them by date, several of her photos with Bob were mixed in with photos of us. I started going through the images, one by one, and discovered that in a number of her pictures with Bob, when they were hugging and kissing, she was wearing a necklace/locket that I had bought her for her birthday the second year we were dating. I had to borrow money from my brother to purchase it. When I looked at the dates on the images, I saw a pattern. On days and weekends, when school demanded my complete attention, when she went to her mother's home or her sister's place to offer me peace and quiet, she was meeting up with Bob behind my back. I was enraged. It seemed as if fire ants were nibbling on my brain, heart, and intestines at the same time as I was walking. I was on the verge of breaking through the walls when something went wrong and I became numb. I began to perceive and think in a very cold, analytical manner, which I continued to do. I put all of her images, not just the ones I'd seen, on a flash drive and took them with me. I packed my luggage, bought some suits, and traveled across town to my brother's house to stay for a few days. With a snapshot of her kissing Bob displayed on the computer monitor, I left her laptop hard drive connected to my computer. The only thing I left behind was a sticky note with an arrow pointing to the necklace/locket I had given them as a gift. Wendy phoned me from her mother's house. I assumed that's where she was, but I didn't pick up the phone to answer. However, it wasn't until a few hours later, when she was most likely back in our apartment and saw the picture on the television, that she began to flood my phone with voicemails and text messages. I didn't give about any of them. Separation and divorce are topics that I've already covered with another colleague in the family law section. The majority of our money was spent on repaying my student loans and paying for her college education, so we don't have any children or property to speak of. My firm has encircled me with wagons, so all of her phone calls are routed via me. She is not authorized to be on the premises. Security already turned her away. Fortunately, Wendy tracked me down at my brother's house, but he warned her over the phone that if she showed there, he'd unleash his Dobermans on her. He said she was crying, sobbing, and begging on the other end of the line. It didn't make me feel either sad or happy in any way. I didn't have any sensations. My marriage has come to an end. That's something I've come to terms with. Nonetheless, it's been 2 days and I'm still not feeling well. There is no feeling of discomfort. There is no outburst of wrath. Nothing. Can it really be true that I have no longer felt any feeling towards her, that I have no one to see her again, and that I have no desire to reconcile with her? It scares me to think that I'm feeling nothing for her now that I'm alone with my thoughts. Is this something that will stand the test of time? Is it conceivable that I'm still reeling from the experience? Is it possible that I'll be broken for the rest of my life? On the bright side, I've never seen responses that were so clear in any of my circumstances. Update 1/26. First and foremost, I'd want to express my gratitude to everyone who took the time to respond. I'm overwhelmed by the positive responses, and I want to express my gratitude to everyone who has shared their numbness with me. Having knowledge that this is a common response might be relieving. Individual counseling is something I want to look into in the near future. Gail, an employee at my business who was in charge of my case, combed through the other images on the flash drive and located many in which Wendy is snuggling or kissing Bob, and in which the engagement ring I gave her is prominently shown. When I was notified of this, I did not have any feelings of sadness or bitterness. Instead, I felt ecstatic. I couldn't help but smile. Surprisingly, I inquired of Gail as to why this bad news had brought me such delight. Because it vindicates every decision I've taken since leaving, she maintains she is happy. Wendy and I have been separated for many months, and all contacts have been routed via Gail, with the exception of Wendy's family and friends, who mistakenly feel that my brother and his wife would be sympathetic ears, which they aren't. It is scheduled on Thursday afternoon that Gail will meet with Wendy to finalize the separation agreement she has previously drafted. Wendy has been advised by Gail that if she is not represented by counsel, I will not be present. Gail needs to be singled out for particular recognition. I'm not sure what to call her, but if you envision a pit viper, you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about. I'm grateful that she is on my side. We'll be filing the divorce petition in the near future. Gail believes that any spousal help will be little and short-lived, i.e., she believes that I will be stuck paying the rent for the next 5 months until our lease ends and Wendy completes the remaining of her PhD coursework, and that I will be unable to afford it. Because we're saving for a down payment on a house, our only significant asset is a savings account that requires 2 signatures and does not have ATM access. Thank you, long-forgotten bank employee, for suggesting this as an additional layer of protection against fraud. When Wendy was supposed to be at her part-time job, my sister-in-law came over to my house to pick up some more of my clothes and personal belongings. She ended up listening to Wendy for a long period of time. As one Redditor put it, Wendy would lie about practically anything if the situation demanded it. My stuff were being packed away by SIL, who was listening to Wendy spew one easily disproved falsehood after another. In frustration at the lack of progress, Wendy asked SIL, "Hasn't there ever been a guy in your past who just gets into your head and you can't get out?" SIL replied, "Isn't there ever a man in your history who just gets into your head and you can't get out? Wendy is a wimp and Bob is a Jedi, so I guess that's my excuse for her betrayal." Either way, SIL did react to her question, stating, "Yes, I married him," in response to her question. Spending time with my brother's family has made me feel less lonely, which I appreciate. My nephews are annihilating me at video games, and I'm having a great time watching it all. Working conditions are excellent. In fact, the partner in charge of my department just stopped by to express his delight that I have not allowed my personal situation to interfere with my professional performance. That's all I've got for the time being. Thank you everyone who answered with kind words of encouragement. My gratitude for knowing that I'm not the only one who feels this way, as well as my disinterest in my STBX, cannot be adequately expressed.